Hello and welcome, Transformation Talk Radio listeners and podcast listeners everywhere. My name is Ellen Stewart, and I am the pushy broad from the Bronx.
She's the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York. Follow her voice, her straight talk is nice. She's the pushy broad from the Bronx, oh yeah. Don't be surprised if you wanna listen twice. Make decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.
This weekly show, Everybody Needs a Little Push, with Ellen Stewart, the pushy broad from the Bronx, will be aired every Wednesdays on Transformation Talk Radio and podcast stations everywhere at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. I am delighted to bring you my weekly podcast program, which I hope will inspire you, coach you, sometimes make you laugh, and give you the push moment you need to move forward. And I'm going to do it the pushy broad way. Straight up, no BS, easy, quick, with answers, suggestions, and directions that will give you a coaching experience that will be part cheerleader and part drill sergeant. Because everybody needs a little push from time to time. And here comes yours.
Everybody needs a little push. Everybody needs a little push. Everybody needs a little push. Everybody needs a little push.
Welcome, Transformation Talk Radio listeners and fans of Pushy Broad from the Bronx. This is Ellen Stewart. The episode, Everybody Needs a Little Push, and today's show is called Staying Clean and Sober While Social Distancing. I have a special interview today with a young woman who is maintaining her sobriety and recovery, and this interview is going to show all of you out there how we can maintain our sobriety amidst staying at home and quarantining in place. So I'd like to introduce you to Marissa.
Hello, everybody.
Okay. Marissa, how old are you and how long have you been, how long were you using drugs?
I am 22 and I was using drugs for a little over 6 years.
Which tells everybody that you started using when you were about 16.
Yes.
Okay, which is a popular time for those of us that pick up a drink or a drug. It's usually in our teenage years. It's very, very common. And the last 2 years were pretty rough for you. Is that correct?
Yes, they were. I was definitely heavily using pretty much every day.
Could you tell me what you were using in the past 2 years?
The past 2 years, every day was marijuana. I was using benzos that I was getting prescribed. However, I was abusing them. I was doing cocaine every day. And then if I could get my hands on it throughout the month, I would do painkillers, LSD, mushrooms occasionally, just willing to try anything that was around me.
So that was really escalating. Were there things going on in your life that were leading you to be using more, do you think?
Definitely my emotional state. I struggle with anxiety and depression, and I didn't really know how to cope with that very well. So my coping skill would be to use drugs and suppress my feelings.
So you use drugs to escape?
Yes.
Did you find that it made you less depressed or it just made you numb?
Just numb for the most part. It's kind of just a vicious cycle. I would use, be numb, get depressed, and then use some more.
I see. So the cycle would repeat itself.
Yes.
So you decided 3 months ago to do something about it. Did something come to a head in your life? How did you decide to make the move to walk into sobriety and recovery?
A lot of people talk about their bottoms. I had reached an emotional bottom.
Yeah.
That being that I didn't really want to wake up every day. I had a lot of suicidal thoughts and I was really struggling with that. And I wasn't the person that everybody knew me to be. I was isolating myself from everyone. And it was just really a depressing and hard time for me.
And I know you were working with a therapist at the time,
Yes.
and the therapist was recommending treatment to you well before that time, right? For quite a
Yes.
few months.
About a year prior to me actually making the decision.
And why do you think you rejected it over and over again?
I personally, in the beginning, didn't feel that I had an issue. He told me I had a problem, and I disregarded that. I didn't think I had a problem. I thought I had full control over it. It didn't have control over me. And it took me a while to come to terms with that.
And then finally, you were at a point where you said you were having suicidal thoughts, and you were aware of the fact that this had to stop. Yes?
Yes, I was. It took me a while to get there, but I was tired of feeling this way, and it seemed to be the only options were to either commit suicide or get treatment for that. So luckily, I chose treatment.
Luckily, you chose to live.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's a wonderful thing because living is so big for sure. So you made the decision, and that turned out to be residential treatment for you, correct?
It did, yes. That is what my therapist thought was the best way for me to be able to get help with my addiction as well as my anxiety and my depression.
Yes. And as it turned out, your therapist is a colleague of mine that I've known for several years. And he reached out to me because I am a recovery coach, right? I worked with recovering alcoholics and addicts, among other people in recovery. And he asked me to make a recommendation for treatment, which I did. And then you went to a residential center for 30 days.
Yes, and it
Yeah.
was a great time.
Okay. And I am really glad that because some people don't embrace it as a great time. Okay. I've never really heard anybody walk into treatment skipping, oh, yay, I'm here, happily skipping into treatment. That doesn't normally happen. And maybe it takes a little bit of an adjustment in the beginning, but it certainly works better when you're committed to making it work. Would you say that was the case?
Definitely, and that's pretty much how I got through it. I knew I really wanted to get sober, and that was the only way that I could get better. So I did whatever they recommended that I do, and I pretty much put my life into the treatment center for those 30 days that I was there because I wanted to leave a much stronger and happier person.
And as always, what you put into it, you get out of it. And because you did embrace it in a good way, it actually stuck with you. So, for those of us out there who are maybe thinking of going into residential treatment, do you think they should be scared by this possibility? Or what can you say to somebody that is thinking about going into residential treatment?
I absolutely don't recommend being scared. I recommend going in with an open mind. I had no idea what it was going to be like going in. So I was a little scared, and it took me a little while longer to warm up to everybody. But going in with an open mind and just taking the suggestions that everyone there is giving to you, such as the staff members and the counselors, is really what helped me out. And it was just very important to go in with an open mind. I didn't have a clear mind, but I had an open mind.
Okay, well, that's a good way to describe it. Did you feel at any time during that experience that there was something to be frightened about?
Um, well, with my anxieties, I just have fear of the unknown, pretty much. So I didn't know what it was going to be like, which then led to my anxieties and my fear. But once I met my community of girls that I was there with and my counselor that I was working with, I got a lot more comfortable with the people there. And I knew that a lot of them were going through the exact same things I was going through. So there really wasn't anything to be fearful about.
Great. Well, that's good for us to know because many people don't know what's happening, and what you're doing is allowing people to feel more comfortable about something. And also, you had great success because you really embraced it. You didn't fight the process, and that's what made it worthwhile. You and I communicated during that time on several occasions so that I can be aware of your progress and we can build a working relationship together. Because when you came out of treatment, one has to maintain their sobriety, correct? One has to continue,
Absolutely.
and also one needs help in continuing, right? Wouldn't you say that?
I'd say
So,
me specifically, I need a lot of help.
well, okay, but at least we know that in order to stay clean and sober, especially in early recovery, we do need some help because we can't do it alone. So, one of the things that you did was to hire me as a recovery coach.
I
So
did.
that, and how often do we talk?
We talk every single day.
And I know maybe you were uncomfortable with that in the beginning. Yes.
I was definitely even just talking on the phone.
How come?
Well, I didn't know you too well in the beginning, but also just in general, I'm not great at socializing or communicating, which I've gotten a lot better at throughout my recovery. But definitely talking to you every single day helped me to get better at that and feel more comfortable in sharing things with you, and just helping me stay on track.
Good. Again, the more we do things over and over, the more comfortable we become, no matter what. And in addition to hiring me as a recovery coach, what else have you done for your recovery?
I have a therapist that I see at least once a week. I have a sponsor that I talk to also every single day, whether it be through phone call or text message. I go to a lot of meetings. Now they are virtual meetings, which I am ever so grateful for. Um, and I just take everything as it comes, one day at a time.
Okay. So the meetings we're referring to means that the recovery you're embracing is 12-step recovery, correct?
Yeah.
Because there are many different kinds of treatment approaches in the world, but you are someone that embraces 12-step recovery. So that the meetings you're talking about are Alcoholics Anonymous meetings or Narcotics Anonymous meetings? Which one?
Both.
Both. So you go to AA meetings and NA meetings. And before you were doing this virtually, you were attending them in person. And about how many meetings would you attend on a daily basis?
I would say I would attend about 2 to 3 meetings a day if possible. Usually one early in the morning before I go to work around 6:45. Then one at lunch when I have my lunch break, and if I can, one in the evening around 7:30.
Okay. And you enjoyed that schedule.
I did. It kept me very busy and full of sobriety.
And full of sobriety. So that worked for you. And that is certainly embracing it in a really good way. You started your day with a meeting, you took your lunch break and did something and sat and actually had a lunch meeting where you brought your lunch to a meeting and then just listened. And then at the end of the day, to wind down, you went to a meeting. And that worked pretty well for you. Many people will advocate coming out of a treatment center and then attending 90 meetings in 90 days, and you were really stepping it up by attending three meetings a day, which is wonderful, and that works very well for you. So now you are moving along and everything is wonderful, and then all of a sudden, of course, we get hit with this pandemic and there are no longer face-to-face meetings. So what is the AA and NA community doing in spite of the pandemic? How are they handling recovery meetings?
We are doing lots of Zoom meetings. They are similar to regular meetings. A lot of the same people are in them, which is really nice. We get to see each other's faces and hear each other share. They have a chairperson like the regular meetings, and they usually ask someone to speak, um, just like the regular meetings. And they speak for about 5 to 10 minutes, pick a topic, and then people share during that time for about 2 to 3 minutes. And it's always good to share. I was a little scared of sharing in the beginning, but it is good to share and get whatever is on your mind out to other alcoholics, because they do understand, other alcoholics and drug users, because they do understand what you're going through. A lot of us are going through the same thing during this time, being isolated and in our thoughts and stuck with people in houses and whatnot.
Right. Okay. And you are in a house with your family, correct?
I am, yes. 7 of us here.
7 of you living in one house.
Yeah,
Okay. So that's mom and dad and two sisters, a brother, and a nephew.
that is correct.
Yes. And all of you. So certainly 7 people in a house, despite, and also you have other living beings in the house too, don't you?
I do. I have my 4 doggies.
Yes. And they're not four little small doggies, right? What
No,
are they?
they are Siberian Huskies.
There you go. So you have four full grown Siberian Huskies plus the 7 of you. So that's quite a bit. Sometimes people are in isolation and it's only themselves, a sense of loneliness. But I'm sure sometimes the opposite is true too. Yes.
Yes. Well, I can tell you I'm never bored in this house, and it's never too quiet here. But it is nice to be able to go out for a walk by myself with my dogs and find some quiet out there. If I need some every once in a while on a beautiful day like today, or just any day that it's nice out, it's good. And I have my own room, so I have my own space in there. Yeah.
That's good. But that's one of the reasons too. Sometimes people feel that they get underfoot. I mean, there are many reasons when we're in an unnatural situation like this to think about whether or not we want to pick up, right?
Oh, yes, there are. I was definitely, when this first started happening, I was projecting into the far future because we don't know how long this is going to happen. But I was scared because of isolation, but luckily we have the online meetings and we have phones, so I can call and FaceTime people whenever I kind of just let my thoughts spiral or get frustrated with someone in the household. I'm able to reach out to my network and communicate, which is really awesome.
And also, I had given you a resource for international meetings. Do you want to share that with our listeners?
intherooms.com is a great website. It has people from all over the world. I go on it very frequently. It has a lot of meetings, usually every other hour, and they're different kind of themes. There's one specifically for early sobriety. They have LGBTQ meetings. They have meetings specifically for the COVID-19 and people's fears. They have NA meetings also. So it is a really great website to just get to know new people and listen to new shares and new stories.
Right. And that's in the rooms, correct? In the
Yeah,
rooms
in the
dot com. I think it's .com. Yes.
yeah.
International meetings, which really makes it very, very interesting. And then, of course, your local community meetings are also available to you. So your home group has a meeting, correct?
Yes, we do.
Yes. And you can take advantage of meetings all day long. So now that you're listening in a virtual capacity, about how many meetings do you get to on a daily basis?
I usually get to about 1 or 2. I do like to go to my regular home group meetings, and I have been recently trying to get into a few more meetings, specifically on in the rooms, because I don't know a lot of people there, so it's cool to get to know people in recovery. And I have seen a few people that are trying to get into recovery during this time, which is really inspiring. So it's good to be able to go to meetings other than my home group as well. But it is really important that I go to at least one meeting a day because that keeps my head in the right space and honestly keeps me from wanting to pick up during a time like this.
Okay. And what you're saying is you're finding new people coming into the rooms all the time, correct?
I am, which is very encouraging.
Wow. Well, give me an idea of what some of the people are saying. I don't mean specific stories. We're not going to divulge anybody's anonymity here. But when you say new people are coming in all the time, are they saying, like I've never been here before, I want to try this out now that I have the opportunity?
Yes, that actually has happened. They don't have to leave their comfort of their home and they're able to go online and join a meeting. You don't necessarily have to show your face if you don't feel comfortable. And no one feels obligated to share, which also makes people feel a little less anxious and more comfortable. But it's nice when newcomers do share. Even with the online meetings, you see everyone clapping because they're excited, whether this person has a few hours of sobriety or a few days of sobriety. It's just always, we're always encouraging new people to come in, especially during a very difficult time like this. And a lot of people are isolated. So if they're using and they have no one to use with or talk with, they do, luckily, some people do turn to the rooms.
Well, that's a really good thing. And that's opening up a really good process for them. And what you said really makes sense. They feel less intimidated if they don't have to leave their house. And maybe they'll listen. And even if they're looking to reduce their drinking, at least they're more open. Beforehand, most of the meetings you couldn't go into unless you were sober, or at least you couldn't share at that time. But at least now maybe they can do more listening to find out what it's about. We'll be right back. Are you ready to transform and empower your life by changing the way you think, feel, and act? Then it's time to schedule a coaching call appointment with me, Ellen Stewart, Pushy Broad from the Bronx, certified empowerment coach and recovery coach. My style of coaching is part cheerleader and part drill sergeant, always in your corner and at the same time giving you the push you need to truly move forward and exactly what you need to take command of your life. If you are ready for the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, I am ready for you. Visit my website, pushybroadfromthebronx.com, and click on the link that says one-on-one coaching. Make an appointment today. This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, and this is our show, Everybody Needs a Little Push. And today we're talking about staying in recovery from substance misuse during COVID-19. I want to make it clear to all of you that we are not advocating one particular way or one particular treatment program or one particular method to stay clean and sober. What we're talking about today is just to, no matter what, maintain your sobriety and not to fall back off the wagon and start drinking and drugging because you're in a situation of stay at home now with the isolation of COVID-19, and that could provide very dangerous circumstances to people that are in early recovery or people that want to maintain their recovery. So no matter what treatment program you follow, no matter what methodology you embrace, it is still important to know that in today's situation, there are online programs and ways for you to maintain your sobriety and recovery. So let's continue with my interview with Marissa, who is 22 years old and has graciously consented to share her story of staying in early sobriety despite this pandemic. So with this virtual world, it may actually help more alcoholics and addicts come to sobriety and come to recovery. Yes, that's a possibility.
It definitely is a possibility.
That's wonderful. All right. So what else do you think you're getting from the rooms now? How is it comfortable for you to be in this situation? Do you think it's hurting your recovery or do you think it's helping your recovery?
Definitely helping my recovery. I don't ever leave a meeting without feeling like, oh, I needed that meeting. I always could use a meeting, no matter how many times I've been to a meeting in one day. So the online meetings are extremely helpful, pretty much just as helpful as the in-person ones. We don't have person-to-person contact, but it's still getting to talk to people, and it's nice to hear that there's a lot of fear going on. So it's nice to hear that a lot of people are in the same boat and have the same fears among this, with what's going on right now in this virus. And it's just good to be able to hear that and know that there's so many other people going through the exact same thing as me.
So a most common thread in the rooms is to talk about how fearful they are around the virus.
Yes, especially during this time.
Okay, so are people talking about the fact that they're afraid to pick up, or they're just talking about the fears around the virus? What's the common thread?
A lot of fears about the virus. I've heard that there aren't a lot of people that are afraid to pick up, but there are passing thoughts about picking up. I mean, it still happens to me, especially in early recovery, not physically wanting to pick up, but thinking, oh, a drink or a drug might be good during this time. It's like the perfect, quote unquote, perfect time for that. You don't have to go anywhere or do anything. But that's why it's good to talk to each other and be able to share those fears with each other.
I understand. Okay. And do you find that people are worried about getting the virus themselves, or are losing their jobs, or the stress of the whole thing on top of that? Are people talking about that as well? The emotion?
Definitely the stress of the whole thing. I know a lot of people have cut back on watching the news because that does affect people quite negatively. And a lot of people are worried for not so much themselves, but their family members that are still out there working, or that they're not near or able to see. I know some people have had or have family members that have gotten the virus. So just keeping everybody in their prayers and just sharing about the stresses of the virus.
Right, I understand. Well, I mean, that's a really good way. And now more than ever, it gives people a support system because this is unusual circumstances where everybody would like to share in a group, right? Like COVID-19 support groups. And AA and NA are automatically in place for those support groups, right? Because we were talking about support before in recovery, and now people are able to go and continue that support in the rooms, and they're automatically set up, which is a wonderful thing.
Yes, definitely.
So, what do you think you have gotten with working with me as a recovery coach, in addition to
Um,
all of this?
Working with you, I've definitely gotten a lot of happiness. Honestly, you've helped me to make goals for myself, which I didn't have while I was active. You helped me to look forward to what I want to do in life, and helped me to stay sober by being able to talk to you every day about any time of the day, really, about anything that's happened throughout my day, whether it be an argument with a relationship or just something that I'm stressed out about, whether it be my financial situations. You've helped me get those in check as well, my finances, which is very, very good for me because that's not something that I've ever done. I used to honestly spend my whole paycheck on drugs. So now I'm able to save. You've helped me get a savings account and just look forward to doing things that I've always wanted to do in life, such as going back to school, and being the best me I can be.
Being the best you. Well, you certainly look a lot different than even when we first started 3 months ago. And one of the things that you do have going for you is the fact that you're young, but you're open and willing, and you were really able to embrace what was going on. You were not resistant to change, right? You're open and willing to hear new things from people that are considerably older than you, maybe have more time in recovery. Also, working with your therapist, working with your sponsor on a regular basis, because I know you check in with her as well every single day as you work with me. And would you say that in the last 3 months from December actually until now that you've made a big transformation, a big change?
Absolutely, I absolutely have. I didn't even know I could live a life without wanting to not wake up the next day. So it's like living a whole new life for me. My mind is clear. I can make much better decisions. I'm an honest person now. I can honestly say that I wasn't honest at all before. And you've helped me being in the program, going to the meetings has helped me be an honest person and just do the next right thing.
Wonderful. And you find to do that gets easier and easier, correct? Maybe in the beginning it's a little hard. Would you say that you have better relationships now with your family?
I definitely do have better relationships with my family. I'm able to communicate better, which is very important, and I isolate much less because I'm not using, and so I don't feel that I have to hide anything from anyone. So I'm definitely a better daughter, sister, aunt, friend, which is really awesome to say because that was one of my goals when going into treatment. And I'm able to say that I was able to come out and work on that, and it has definitely improved my relationships.
That's wonderful. That's really, really good. So tell us a little bit more about what your day is like. What kind of structure do you have now that you are in a work at home schedule? How do you plant recovery into your day?
Well, routine is definitely important. That is something that I learned in treatment. We did have routine every single day. So I let that follow me out of treatment. I usually wake up around the same time every day, do my morning meeting, go to work. Right now, these days, it's been half a day at work, luckily. I still have a job. My hours are a little bit less, which is nice. I'm not complaining about that. So usually after I work, I'm able to do a home workout because that is very important to me. Working out, exercising is part of my recovery. It keeps me busy, keeps me healthy. So I like to fit that in after I work. I have lots of dogs, so those have to be walked. So I do, if it's nice out, like to go on a good walk after work with them as well. And I read. I forgot. I do wake up in the morning. I meditate and I pray to get my day started, and then I go to my meeting. I After I walk the dogs, I usually eat something because that's also very important in recovery. I used to not eat a lot, and it's good to just keep routine and usually eat around the same time every day. And then I do another meeting. Um, if I'm not too tired, I try to just go to a meeting. Now it's virtually, so
That means you just plug in online and go to a
right, so I
meeting,
really don't have much of an excuse there.
right?
And then, I like to end my day with some more meditation and prayer, and I usually fall asleep, after watching a show or 2, and I'm usually asleep by around 10:30. I like to get in bed kinda early so I can wake up nice and early the next day.
So that's a regular schedule that you've managed to keep even in this stay at home situation.
Yes, I will say when this first thing started, I didn't keep my routine, and the first 2 days, just 2 days of not a routine, I was so thrown off. So I talked to my sponsor, and she said, "Stick to that routine." So that is exactly what I've been doing.
Okay, and that takes a little bit of discipline, yes?
It definitely does, yes.
But as a whole, it makes you feel much healthier. It makes you less anxious rather than more anxious, correct?
Definitely, it's good to have a routine because it does make me a lot less anxious. I know what I need to do and when I need to do it, and I don't have to think or rush through anything throughout my day or week.
That is a really good technique for most of us to embrace since most of us are in that situation where we are sequestered at home. And in order to keep ourselves more sane, a good accountability and structure and a daily routine is essential. Keeping to that daily routine really seems to work for you and also for your sobriety. As you said, get up in the morning, do your meditation, maybe make a morning meeting, do your work for the day, have your lunchtime, have a lunchtime meeting, continue your day, and then end your day with a meeting to solidify everything and to make it just as normal as when you were going out there and not isolating. Tell me some of the things that you have learned in recovery that has truly helped you through this most difficult time in our lives. What tools are you using?
Taking it one day at a time. A lot of the slogans, letting go and letting God. There's really nothing I can do during this situation other than focus on myself, and I can't control the world around me. There's no point in stressing over it. I've been able to learn. There's no point in stressing over it if I can't do anything about it. All I can do is work on myself, to stick to my routine, meditate, keep myself busy, and just keep in communication with my network, with my, I call them my recovery team. You, Ellen, my therapist, my sponsor, just being able to communicate during this time. I've communicated a lot more than I did when we weren't in this crazy pandemic situation, just because I can and I need to, and I hope that continues actually when this is all done as well.
And that's good. But you're right. There are some cliches that we learn in recovery that most of us that are in recovery know, and those of us that aren't in recovery can learn from. Correct?
Absolutely.
So, one of those cliches, like we said from the first step, is that we're powerless over this. We can't control this. It is beyond our control. But the only thing that we can control is ourselves, right? Just taking care of ourselves and realizing that we cannot influence the world, and yet we can influence the world in another way if we take care of ourselves, because not only are we staying healthy, but by isolating, we are contributing to other people staying healthy as well. So we
Absolutely.
are making an impact.
Yeah.
Yes, we are making an impact. And then also part of recovery knows that we have to rely on other people, right? Just like in this pandemic, we are all in this together. Just
We
like
are.
we know that when we go to the rooms and we ask for recovery help, that we can't do it alone. We need
No,
other
and
people to help us
that is
out.
something that I learned early on in recovery. It's very important. I thought I could do it alone. I can't. And really, no one can and no one should have to, which is why we have the rooms and people in the rooms that care. They always told me that they'll love me until I learn to love myself. And even Ellen said that she loved me more than I loved myself when we first started. So it is very important to have people around you that are supporting you throughout everything you do.
Yes, and also understanding that because sometimes we have no control, it does not pay to bring in all of those negative emotions that make us anxious or angry or feeling lonely or depressed or sad. We have to let it go when we have no control over it, and have faith and trust that things will work themselves out. And that's the letting go, letting God portion of the journey, right? Giving it up to a power greater than ourselves,
Yeah.
and being okay with it, being mentally and emotionally and spiritually okay with whatever is going to come next.
Yes, there's been a lot of acceptance for me. I accept that there's nothing I can do about it, and I'm just gonna roll with the punches and take it one day at a time.
Yes. But in taking one day at a time, you have been actively able to take care of yourself. You're not calling me, telling me that you're in bed all day with the covers over your head and, and just doing nothing. You are functioning, you're doing everything you need to, right?
Yes.
I know there are some days that we don't want to get up and we just say to ourselves, oh my God, what's happening here? And we can have those days. But for the most part, you're putting one foot in front of the other, living in the day, living in the moment, and following your plan, right?
Yes, I am.
That's a wonderful thing. So, is there something that maybe you want to tell our listeners out there, a message that you would like to convey to somebody that's in early recovery and how they can get through this?
Early recovery, especially from home. Definitely try to go to as many meetings as you can. Um,
Fine.
Online, yes. In the rooms, like we said before, is an awesome space for that. If you happen to know anybody that's in recovery, reach out to them, communicate with them. Um, I like to journal a lot. That was very important in my recovery. It is also part of my daily routine usually. A lot of walks outside, getting fresh air, away from people, obviously, in this time, but it is good to get out there, whether it's walking around the neighborhood or going for a hike. Just being in nature, I personally enjoy in my recovery. And if you have time, which most of us do in this quarantine, I've luckily been able to read a lot more of the AA book, and I also have an NA book. So I've been able to read some literature as well as attending meetings, which is nice. And I've gotten to work a little bit more on my hobbies. So if you don't have hobbies, find some hobbies. I started crocheting again, which is fun for me.
That's a great thing. That's really, really good. And of course, we are not necessarily advocating one way to stay in recovery. There are many ways. And not only would one want maybe the traditional 12-step recovery rooms, but there's smart recovery. There's a host of different recovery programs out there. The whole idea is to try to stick to the same good habits that we had before we were forced into stay-at-home directives. That's the object of this particular podcast, to let people know that because we're home, our emotional stressors should not get the better of us, and we should continue our good habits so that we can make it through. Not only for people that are worried about picking up a drink or a drug at this time, but people that are maybe overeating or binge eating or watching their food in a way that would be unhealthy, right? Or people that are maybe using video gaming too much, or maybe they're gambling online. Anything that would be a compulsive or an addictive behavior is something that we're looking at here to be able to manage and abstain from, so that we don't get through this and go back doing the things that are negative for us to do.
Right.
And now you're saying to me that with all of the resources happening, that we're actually looking at recovery in a whole new way.
We are, and it took me a while to get used to it for the first couple of days, but it after those first 2 days, I was like, oh, this is pretty much just the same. I just can't touch these people, but I can hear them and I can talk to them. And so I said, I can do this. This will be great.
And most of the time you can see them, so you're not really losing anything. A couple of people have actually said it best. We're not actually socially distancing. We're just really physically distancing.
Yes, I like that. We are.
And certainly if this situation had happened to us 10 years ago, all of these resources would not be available to us in the same way.
No, and I'm so grateful for that right now.
I don't know how much longer we'll have to do this, but certainly you seem stronger. You seem determined.
Yes, I feel that as well.
Okay, so give us a final message to our listeners. What do you want to leave them with, Marissa?
I want to leave them with that you can stay or get sober during this time. Go to meetings online, reach out to people, and keep a positive and open mindset during this time, and stay happy and healthy.
Terrific. Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We'll be right back. Are you ready to put down that drink or drug for good? Are you struggling to maintain your recovery from addictive behaviors? Do you need help with a family member or loved one who's in early recovery or battling addiction? Get the help and guidance you need by arranging a recovery recharged phone session with me, Ellen Stewart, Pushy Broad from the Bronx, certified life and recovery coach. Call 1-800-889-1757. Make an appointment today, or go to my website, pushybroadfromthebronx.com, and click on the link that says Recovery Recharged. Don't wait. Get the help you need today. This is Ellen Stewart, Pushy Broad from the Bronx, on TransformationTalkRadio.com. All of the experts in the field of addiction say people who are recovering from substance misuse are facing serious relapse issues during the coronavirus shelter-in-place orders. They say the self-isolation and boredom that comes with this disease can be a trigger to relapse into drug or alcohol use. Many organizations, such as Alcoholics Anonymous, have information on how people can connect using social media and other online tools. Alcoholics Anonymous has a webpage devoted to online options, including Zoom and Google Hangouts. Narcotics Anonymous provides similar information on its website. Find the online resources. When you are struggling to stay sober, please implore some very basic tools so that you can get through this time, through our isolation period and our physical distancing, and survive this and come out the other side clean and sober and healthy. Remember that your first goal has to be to stay clean and sober, just like it was when we were going out into the world. Your first choice is sobriety. That is the most important thing. Recovery and sobriety comes first. Otherwise, nothing else will work and nothing makes sense. Do not overestimate your control over your addiction. You do not have control, and you know that. Staying clean and sober means to be in recovery one day at a time, one step at a time. Continue to practice complete abstinence. Also understand that there are online treatment programs that you can be a part of. You can do online intensive outpatient programs, which will allow you to connect with online therapists 3 days a week, 3 hours a day. You can still also go for residential treatment should you need inpatient care. Other ways to stay clean and sober is to remember to take good physical care of yourself. Marissa talked about doing exercises. Use the virtual tools. Go to YouTube. Go online. Find yoga. Find exercise classes. The more you exercise, the more you will diminish those psychological cravings for drugs and alcohol. Now's the time also to build some healthy relationships. Understand that maybe you want to mend some fences. We realize that we pick up a drink or a drug to escape. And so what we have to do now is not escape and face the people in our lives. Connect with those we love. Talk to people that we never had a chance to talk to before. Reconnect with friends and loved ones who may have distanced themselves in the past. Reach out to others in recovery. Call the people in the rooms. Make sure that you're calling your sponsor on a daily basis. Understand that you are still solely responsible for your sobriety. You must do what works for you and make sure that you are working a program of some kind, and that always is the most important thing for you. Make sure that you are not lying to yourself about how much you think you can handle it. Just because you're home and the whole world may not be able to see that you're drinking, you will still know. And you have a responsibility to yourself and to your higher power and to the people you connect with in the rooms that are still there for you just with the click of a mouse. This is the time to really help your personal development. Heighten your self-awareness. Keep yourself busy. Try new hobbies. Make new friends. Maybe look for a recovery coach or seek out an online therapist. Find a new sponsor. Learn to have some fun without alcohol or drugs. Spend more time with your kids. Rekindle your conversations with your parents. Take long walks. Take up an outdoor hobby. Take up an old hobby. Remember your gratitude list. Join an online recovery forum. Remember intherooms.com? It's an international recovery platform. It's easier than ever to stay connected right now. Take some online classes. Improve your job skills. Spend more time with your family. Make a bucket list. Start to really form those productive habits that you were not able to do before. Quit smoking. Stop making excuses. Stop blaming others. Remember your humility and be humble. Connect to your spiritual roots. There are online services of every denomination. Don't get complacent. Remember that recovery still means to be vigilant. Discover your true passion. Take pride in your accountability, responsibility. Keep a schedule. Follow a routine. Don't live in fear. And most of all, don't let the things you can't control you. In terms of the virus, watch less news, be more connected to the positive side of life, try to laugh a little more, and remember, most of all, drinking alcohol or taking drugs can weaken your immune system and leave you more vulnerable to viruses. Consuming excessive amounts of alcohol could cause damage to immune cells in the lungs and upper respiratory system, which in turn can increase the risk of developing diseases such as the coronavirus and pneumonia, not to mention making you much more susceptible to this virus. You are not helping yourself. You are doing exactly the opposite. If you are in recovery, stay connected. Find a buddy. Help someone else stay connected in recovery. If you are thinking of picking up a drink or a drug, reach out. You can still go to detox. They are still taking patients. Reach out to support groups. Reach out to a therapist. Find a way to make a real difference in your life so that you can handle the things that are really, really important right now. I know that you can do it. I'm rooting for you. With all the emotional stressors surrounding COVID-19, we all have to be our most vigilant to stay safe and out of harm's way. Whatever problems are arising in your life because of this pandemic, we all need to be at our best in order to face them. That means if you are struggling with alcohol or substance misuse addiction, you need to be clean and sober in order to face the problems around this pandemic. Remember that you never solved problems while you were high or drunk before, so don't start now. This is the time to be clean and sober. If there was ever a time in your life, the time is now. Besides, you are not only responsible for your life, you are directly responsible for the lives of others during this pandemic. Stay safe, stay clean and sober. Use all of your virtual resources to get help. Stay connected. We are all here for you. This is Ellen Stewart, the pushy broad from the Bronx, saying thanks for listening, and remember, everybody needs a little push.
From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.
The Pushy Broad from the Bronx would like to thank her production team: songwriter, composer, musician, and sound man Sam Goche, voice artist and announcer Taylor Goche. Oh, that's me! And thanks to collaborative writer and assistant production manager Richard Torres, virtual assistant and social media guru Kimberly Studdard. Special thanks to Laura Kravitz, production manager, and Susan Herman, collaborative writer. And a very special thanks to Love Love Studios in Brooklyn, for recording and mixing our music.
Here is disclaimer information that we are required to produce.
Professional coaches provide an ongoing partnership designed to help clients produce fulfilling results in their personal and professional lives. Coaches help people improve their performances and enhance the quality of their lives. Coaching services received from certified life coach Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, are not offered as a substitute for professional mental health care or medical care, and are not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any mental health or medical conditions. The Pushy Broad from the Bronx is not acting as a mental health counselor or a medical professional. All comments and ideas offered by Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, are solely for the purpose of aiding her audience in achieving their goals, and hopefully keep you smiling in the process.